Well, my name is Robert, obviously, and I started my artistic career, so to say, as a comic book artist in the 1980s. So this makes quite clear that I'm not that young anymore, but try to figure out my age yourself. I'm not gonna tell you. Anyways, I was starting my career as a comic book artist in the 80s, and actually my very first professional job that I did for Mad Magazine, which some people still might know. And from that, I evolved to become a comic book artist in Germany, publishing in the German magazines that were around at the time. And from that, I got into animation by more or less a coincidence. I didn't plan on becoming an animation artist, but that sort of happened. And I've been doing that for more than 30 years now. I started as a storyboard artist and layout artist. I did character design, and I did art direction, and I directed. And over the years, I was always developing my own little projects at the side. Of course, when I started out, I had the idea of creating the big animation feature film or animation TV series, which I always sort of tried to achieve, but somehow more or less never got to this point. Which is another story why, but it's not that easy, especially in the German animation industry. And anyways, JASON LUTZ is one of my projects that I'm pursuing for a lot of years now. It actually started in 2007 as an audio play. It was an audio play that I wrote myself in the time of 2 weeks. That was some sort of a task that I gave myself, because I was listening at that time. I was working on a feature film. I was doing compositing. And whilst doing compositing, I was listening to German audio plays lots of times. And there was one in particular which I really liked, but I thought it was very, very stupid. And so I had the idea to do something even more stupid than that. Nice coincidence is that the creator of this very, very stupid audio play series became a good friend of mine later on, because he was the producer on a major feature film that I was working on. And I told him that he was more or less the uncle of JASON LUTZ. I'm the father and he was the uncle, because I listened to his stuff and thought it was so ridiculous, but not ridiculous enough. Of course, it was a very successful series, and he sold lots and lots of audio tapes at that time. It was mostly published on audio tapes. So in 2007, as I said, I started this little task for myself. I said, can you just sort of criticize, or can you do it better? And I said, okay, within 14 days, I want to write a script, which is really, really funny, really, really stupid, and really, really absurd. And that's how JASON LUTZ came to see the light of day. And being an audio play, I contacted publishing companies in Germany, but nobody wanted to have it. So it went in the drawer for a couple of months. And then I started doing live shows, performing the audio play myself. And it even came to a point where I was performing it with a group of people. Some quite known German comedians were taking part. And as I said, over the years, JASON LUTZ always popped up, and he always came knocking on the door and said, hey, do something with me, don't forget me. And now we're here. Well, when I invented the whole thing, when I was writing the script, I didn't know where it would lead me. So I had no idea. I just had some setups. But I didn't have sort of, I wasn't reverse engineering the story. I was just writing it. And so all these characters, they just appeared as they appear in the continuity of the story. And I only had these two characters, or three characters actually, I had sort of in mind. It was Jason Lutz. That was, the name was there first. There wasn't the story. There was just this name. I thought of a very absurd name for an agent, and somehow, being German, I thought the name Jason Lutz makes it quite a good mixture of international and German origins. So his name was there, and his face came up quite fast. And I knew that I wanted to have a very strong and very independent and very sexy female lead on it. And that was, of course, Mayra Radomskaya. And what's, I think, not quite clear for you as an audience and as people who just sort of see the first snippets of it, is that Jason and Mayra are, of course, enemies. They are not working together because they want to do it. They are from the different sides. The whole story takes place in a sort of retro-futuristic sort of Cold War world, but it's not the Soviet Union, and it's not the United States of America. It's the Soviet Union and the United States of Atlantica. So it's sort of, I'm playing with these things that most people knew or know, because they, as I did, they lived in that time, or at least they've heard about it. The Great Cold War, the Iron Curtain, and all that stuff. So that's why I came up with Mayra Radomskaya being sort of the adversary of Jason Lutz, and he's got a crush on her, of course, and he's always trying to seduce her, but he never succeeds in that. So this is sort of the thing that is between the two of them. And in the end, in this first story, they have to team up to fight the supervillain. And the supervillain, of course, being Dr. Elmar Schnitzel. And he's just the cliche mad scientist with sort of his world domination fantasies and all that stuff. So it's sort of cliche, of course, because I didn't have the idea to create something really deep or meaningful. I just wanted it to be very silly and very entertaining. And some of it is not that silly as I thought in the beginning, and some of it really stands the test of time. Considering that I wrote it almost 20 years ago, some of these ideas that are in it, some things that I ridicule about, are as important today as they've been 20 years ago, if not even more important. But as I said, that was not my main aim at that. The main aim was just to amuse myself, really, with doing it. And being an animation artist for such a long time, of course, I always had the idea to produce it as a movie. But you need a couple of millions budget for a movie, which I could never raise. So that's why I came up with the idea then to take a little turn on that. I started doing 3D storyboarding in the last couple of years for feature films and TV series. I developed together with a good friend of mine who actually helps me on Jason Lutz as well. We sort of developed a 3D storyboard workflow for a TV series, and we always liked what we did with the storyboarding. And we always said, well, sometimes the storyboards or the animatics that you do with the storyboards, they look much better than the finished movie. And so we had this idea to come up with not a movie, but sort of a mixture of comic book and storyboard. So what Jason Lutz will be is, of course, not a movie, although it has a very big movie-like approach, but it's going to be an emotion comic, as we always sort of write above it. Because I know what it would take to make a feature film out of it, and with that you need a studio, and you need lots of people to work on it. But this motion comic is something where I could make the start myself, and it developed fine, and it's something that's really fun to do because it's quite intuitive. I'm not sticking like glue to my original ideas that I had 20 years ago. Some things will develop in the process of doing it. You actually can guess by his name, because in a spy story, having a German name is always a good indication of that you're sort of the evil one. But I have an interesting story that I want to share with you all, because obviously Dr. Schnitzel, he's sitting in a wheelchair, and it's not the sort of normal wheelchair; it's an atomic-driven wheelchair. And a friend of mine, when I wrote the audio play, actually, I had a friend who was sitting in a wheelchair, and of course he had a car crash, but years before I met him, so I only knew him as the guy in the wheelchair. And he's an artist, and he's a very nice person. And I asked him if that is sort of what he feels about this, seeing this character. And although it was an audio play, of course I was doing my character designs with it. And I asked him if that is sort of, can I do this? Can I have sort of the evil guy sitting in a wheelchair? And he said he likes it very much. And he sort of gave me the blessing to say, it's all right. Your evil guy can have a wheelchair. I don't mind. So I thought, okay, that's sort of a blessing from a guy who knows what he's talking about. And to that time, that meant quite a lot to me. And he was one of the guys who has been to the different stage shows that we did with Jason Lutz as well. So yeah, that was just it. Actually we lost contact, but maybe it's a good opportunity to drop him a line again and say, hey, look what's happening with Dr. Schnitzel. He's out for world domination finally. Yes, of course. Of course, it's planned to sort of publish it as a normal comic book. It's planned to have it published as the motion comic, of course. And who knows? I mean, I'm very open to suggestions, considering a feature film or TV series or streaming series or whatever. But as far as we can plan the stuff that we are doing, of course, we want to have this first adventure. And I always thought of Jason Lutz as sort of a serious character. So there's lots and lots more stories that you can tell with him. I've got almost a complete script of a second adventure, which is sort of a story about aliens invading the Earth. And there's lots of things that we are planning, but the first and main thing is, of course, to tell this story as the motion comic. We want to produce chapter by chapter and publish it or make it available. Of course, we have ideas with what we are doing here and how we want to reveal it, and with, of course, NFTs being involved. But that's maybe something that my mastermind behind all the other stuff could tell you more about. And that's sort of the way that we are going. And we have, of course, little side things. We have, for instance, this the Too Late Night Show featuring JASON LUTZ. That's sort of a little thing where we can do very fast and very funny sort of short stories that we want to produce beside producing the motion comic. In the chat, I see a question of Soulflight, of course. Who's the mastermind behind you, Robert? Well, it's my wife, of course. And I really mean that, by the way, because that's something, being sort of the inner child that I am all the time. The support of my wife is actually something which sort of keeps me going, and which is very important for me, because I had my times where I was sort of not in the best mood about the career that I've chosen and the ideas that I've worked on and all that stuff. But that was something that I always couldn't rely on, is the support of my wife. And although it's not really her cup of tea what I'm doing, especially JASON LUTZ, when she heard it the first time, she said, "You're really sick." "You're really sick," which for me was something which made me strong as well, because she said it sort of with this little lovely twist. "You're really sick," because that's what I wanted to do, something sort of a weird sick story. So that question is answered, I hope. Well, if you mean planned for the series, I can tell you there's not much planned at the time now. As I said, it is a serious concept, but we are working on the first adventure at the moment, and the first adventure will have 22 chapters. So that's sort of the rough script that I have done up to now, is 22 chapters.
Sounds good. Actually, I hope it's okay if I do not turn my camera on. What question I have right now is, I know you from my younger years. I'm also a bit older than the rest of the audience, I think. I know your comics, what you did in the last years, or maybe 20, 30 years. What I want to know is where the idea came from to switch into the Web3, and why you getting the idea to create some NFTs for the community, and why you want to create or get the whole community into your storybooks.
Well, of course, first of all, when you knew sort of my work from the past, I'm thrilled by that, because I always think that nobody knows what I've done over the years. But so that's nice. And of course, the idea to come into this Web3 thing that came up actually last year, when I was teaming up with a different team than we are doing here with JASON LUTZ. It was more or less a coincidence, and of course for me the interesting thing about that, I was actually hired as an illustrator on a project called the Galactic Tavern, which came sort of right at the time where NFT was crashing. So we hit rock bottom very hard with that, because we were investing time, money, and love for a couple of months, and when we came out, it all started sort of diving really deep. So that was my first contact with the NFT world and the Web3 world. But of course, what interested me the most about this, and that's the same as we have here now with JASON LUTZ, is to be able, I hope it's going to work out, but we are able to reach a community, we're able to reach an audience other than the traditional way that I've been working on for years and years, sort of producing a TV series or producing a feature film, and then having this film released in the cinemas via big companies, and then seeing how many people are going to the cinema to see this film. That was sort of the measurement that we had. I was working in the mid-90s. I was working on a German animated feature called Das kleine Arschloch, which translates to The Little Asshole. And that was a very popular comic series in Germany at that time. And we had 3.5 million viewers in Germany. So we knew it was a success. We knew that sort of what we worked on interested a lot of people, and we had a big audience on that movie. And when I came into this Web3 idea, of course, I was always open-minded for new media and new stuff that you could do. But what I liked really was the idea that you could do this maybe without all these companies that are sort of doing all this business with it and all that stuff, so that you have, as we have it now, sort of the direct contact to people who see what I'm doing, and they give me feedback and can say, well, I like it or I don't like it, whatever. So that was interesting for me, actually. And it was, of course, the opportunity to sort of go into new regions, try new things and find new ways to work on the stuff, and of course to work on my own stuff, not work on other people's stuff, because that's what I mainly have been doing in animation. I was working on other people's stuff. I was working on Astrid Lindgren's Pippi Longstockings, and I was working on Walter Mörs' Little Asshole, and I was working on lots of things that I was just working on as sort of a hired hand.
That actually means that you now can start the really first own project right out from your mind, right? And it's something like that. Nobody else can say how you need to do it, so you all can bring all your ideas into it as you want to do it.
Yes, that's of course the very special opportunity and very special thing, because as I said before, I was developing own projects all the time, and there were a couple of things that I have worked in with other people, but they never really saw the light of day. But what we had from day one when we was working on projects, we had people who were talking into it, people who say, well, if I give the money, then you have to do this and this and that and this and this and that. And that's the way it goes. I mean, if you want to produce a feature film and spend millions of money from other people because it's not your money, then these people who give the money, they want to have a say on it, and they want to tell you what they think is the most important thing about it. And with this here, we only have the only ideas is what we want to do. And of course there are some certain things like talking of sort of people talking into it, or sort of even censorship. We of course, have censorship as well within ourselves, because some of these pictures of Myra that I did are maybe a little too explicit for Twitter or TikTok or whatever, and so we have to decide sort of how far can we go and what can we do. But that's our own thought, and we don't want to produce pornography, so there's no reason that we say, okay, it's okay sort of not to show all, but that's considerations that we're doing ourselves. Nobody else is coming and says, hey, you have to do this or you have to do that. And that, of course, is an artistic freedom that I wouldn't have if I would produce Jason Lutz as a Netflix series, for instance. There would be lots of people talking into it.
Sounds logic for me. So may someone else have a question, because my questions are answered right in a good way. So let's check the chat. Robin, I will give over to you now.
Okay, thanks for the question. Well, of course, the main thing, and I think we had some hints to that on Twitter, etc., is that we have some parts in the story, not the leading parts, of course, but there are some parts in the story that people from the community will be able to gain. For instance, we have in chapter 3, there is a policeman, and that's a guy that sort of I built the character based on his photograph. And of course, it's not a real caricature. I've been doing caricatures myself, but it's sort of his Jason Lutz style avatar. So with you can recognize him if you know it, and if you think that's okay, sort of to have him in this world. But that's actually something that we want to have on a much bigger scale, that we can give people the opportunity to become at least part of the story in the way that they are, like maybe just like the typical Alfred Hitchcock cameo appearance, just walking through the frame or something like that, or even some smaller roles that they can do. That's one thing which I think it might be interesting and funny for people. And we want to have things where we can sort of give people the opportunity to sort of get their ideas out there. I'm not sure if we do it on this first episode, because as I said, the script is written, but on the other hand, as I said, we're always open for new ideas and for new turns and for new tweaks that we can do. So it might even be that we sort of get people to bring in their ideas and their way of thinking about it. So that might be an interesting thing. No, he's actually sort of in the backstory of Dr. Schnitzel, and something which will be revealed later on, so I'm not gonna tell you. But no, he's not from another world, he's German. But I can't tell you too much, but I mean, just take a look at his face, and so he might remind you of some things. But no, in my idea, he's a German mad scientist, which actually, based on facts, existed in Germany and probably still exist in Germany. So yeah. I mean the title of the story is a dead giveaway, isn't it? It's called Mutant Nazi Zomboids Attack. So you might see where the evil comes from. And talking of little stories, there was a little side story. You can interrupt me if I'm getting too far into it, but As I said before, we had sort of a stage performance of Jason Lutz as an audio play with quite a good group of people, some German comedians with it. And that was at a big sort of like it was the the audiobook con. It was a convention for audiobooks. That was round about 1,000 people watching it at that time, and that was taking place here in Hamburg. And the guy who sort of what's the name of it? The impresario who did this convention. He asked me if we could change the title, because he said, well, that's, the press is going to be there. And if we have mutant Nazi zomboids attack, that might sort of, might give some trouble. And he said, do you have another title for it? And I said, oh, no problem. I mean, the title's not it's not a problem. And so we called it for this event, we called it The Return of the Revenge of Dr. Schnitzel, which I think makes a good title as well. I stick to the original title of Mutant Nazi Zomboids Attack because I wanted to have something which sort of is maybe even provokes a controversy a little, but as I just said, The Return of the Revenge of Dr. Schnitzel would be a good title for me as well. Yeah, as I said, I come to that just a little. When I was working in the early 90s in the German animation industry, we had to speak English all the time because there were so many nations. I worked in studios in Hamburg and in Berlin, and there was always an international crowd, and you were always collaborating with international people. So at that time, I was speaking English all the time. I was just, I didn't even switch off speaking German when I came home, because I was listening to British radio all the time and all that stuff. So nowadays, being sort of more or less in home office quite a lot of time, I don't have the opportunity that much anymore, but I still like speaking English. So actually, how can I know? I only know it from sort of this little space. I know that in the American industry, for instance, in the American film industry, not only in animation, there's lots of Germans. I mean, the whole American film industry in the early 1930s were sort of more or less built by German immigrants. And I know a couple of people that I've been working with here in Hamburg that went to become artists at Disney Asia, at Disney in the US, or Paris or somewhere. So I don't see sort of a big difference in the artistic side. The production side. So what's the difference between a German animated feature and an American animated feature? Well, the first big difference is $100 million, because the average budget of an American animated feature is somewhere between 100 and 120 million, or even more. 250 million, I think, was the budget of one of the Pixar films lately. And the German budget is round about 10, 15, 16 million. So that's a big difference. And of course, it has its effect on the artistic side of it as well, because if we have to do sort of the same, the movies are 90 minutes, so you have to fill the same 90 minutes with less than 10% of the budget. So of course you see that there are differences in developing the story, in developing the art and all that. So that's, for me, that's the main difference. Well, of course, and they already have. I mean, you have to watch the teaser that we have done, the small trailer. And the thing is, I can tell you that without telling too much. And I still don't know if it's such a good idea, but it's an idea that I love. I'm doing all the voice talents because I actually have been doing voice talents on German animated films before. I don't know how many of these little audience we have are German, but um, somebody said he likes Walter Immerse. Obviously, I think he will know Werner as well. And I was doing voices in Werner films, for instance. And as I told when I invented JASON LUTZ as an audio play, I was doing all the voices myself, and that's a tradition that we still do with the motion comic. I will do all the voices that you hear. And I'm really looking forward to see if you like it or not. Okay. Scudley just wrote, what role did I speak? Well, in the Werner films, I was the thin policeman, Helmut. And I was in the third Werner movie. I was doing a little Turkish construction worker. When everything sort of tumbled down and was falling to pieces, he always said, "Ganze Baustelle voller Scheiße, alle in X-Schule." Yeah, hilarious. Yeah, I like it. I like to do things like that. As you will see, if you stick to the project, you will see all the funny voices that I'm doing. And the first one who's pissing himself with laughter is always me when I record it. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. No, actually, I mean, obviously, there's lots of stories that I could tell, but maybe we do it next time. And for today, I liked it very much, and I thank all of you taking part. Thank all of you for your interest, and I hope you will spread the word. Yeah, very nice. Thanks. Thank you. Much appreciated. Take care, and hope to see you all soon. Bye.